Good morning, students. Now in this video we are going to solve the MCQs which came in the FMGE exam this year in July 2025. So these questions, why are they important? Because NEET PG is just next Sunday, and doing these questions will also give you an insight into how the questions are being framed or asked. So coming to the first question, a 32-year-old male presents to the emergency department with high-grade fever and altered sensorium. He recently returned from a malaria endemic region. Blood smear confirms Plasmodium falciparum infection resistant to chloroquine. Okay, so now that means the infection is falciparum and resistant to chloroquine. So this is like a severe or a complicated Plasmodium falciparum. The patient is diagnosed with complicated malaria. What is the most appropriate treatment of choice in this case? So in this scenario, the options that they have given are quinine, artesunate, sulfadoxine, pyrimethamine, and primaquine. Now understand that when it is a severe or a complicated falciparum infection resistant to chloroquine, the next choice of drug that we should have is artesunate. So artesunate is the drug of choice which we will give for treatment in this case, right? Now artesunate, we know that it is a water soluble artemisinin derivative. It is an artemisinin derivative, and it is the first line in complicated malaria. How does it act? It acts via generation of free radicals, and this basically kills the malarial parasite in the RBCs, right? So that is the mechanism. It is artemisinin is preferred over quinine because it is safe and it is faster. Okay, now quinine in this option, see, it is an old alternative, plus it also causes side effects, so we will not click on quinine. Sulfadoxine pyrimethamine is used in uncomplicated case, so not very useful here. Primaquine is used for the hypnozoid in the stage in the Vivax, so it is not used in the hypnozoid stage of the falciparum. So the answer here, the best answer that we have here is artesunate, right? Now coming to the next question. Risk of all of the following is reduced by oral contraceptives except. So please remember here, what is the word that they are using here is except. You have to pay attention to these words like except, not, likely, unlikely, not associated. So here sometimes you make the mistake, so remember this word is most important, except. Now risk of all the following is reduced by OCPs except. So OCPs reduce the risk of which cancers? So it definitely reduces the risk of endometriosis, that is uterine changes. It reduces the risk of ovarian cancer. Then it also reduces the risk of colorectal cancer, but it does not reduce the risk of cervical cancer. So the correct answer here is cervical cancer, right? So OCPs, they reduce the risk of ovarian, endometrial cancers. Cervical cancer risk, in fact, it increases due to hormonal changes, and it enhances the human papillomavirus persistence also. So it is protective in colorectal, protective in endometriosis and ovarian, and the answer is cervical cancer, right? Now the next question, a 48-year-old diabetic patient visits your OPD with black discoloration material in the nose and posterior part of buccal cavity. He also gives a history of using high dose steroid therapy in recent past. So which of the following is the most suitable drug for this treatment? Now the history suggests that this is a case of mucormycosis, that is black fungi, right? Because there is a history of steroid use and there is black discoloration. Plus he is also diabetic, so this also now what is the most suitable drug for this treatment? Now drug for mucormycosis, what are the options given? Fluconazole, amphotericin, itraconazole, and greaseprevir. So drug for mucormycosis, the preferred drug is amphotericin B. This is the liposomal format. Liposomal agar hoti hai to it is more preferred. What does it do? It binds to the ergosterol and it forms the pores in the fungal membrane, and through the pores the material of the cell comes out and the cell then dies. And fluconazole and itraconazole, they are ineffective against mucormycosis. So the correct answer here is amphotericin B. Greaseprevir is also not effective in mucormycosis, right? Next question. Which of the following statement regarding the use of ACE inhibitors in hypertension is true? So now आपके कान खड़े हो जाने चाहिए. What are they asking? They are asking true कौन सा statement है, which statement is true. So the first is they decrease the blood pressure by decreasing the peripheral vascular resistance. They decrease the blood pressure by decreasing the cardiac output. They decrease the blood pressure by increasing the peripheral vascular resistance, and they decrease the blood pressure by increasing the cardiac preload. Now, how do ACE inhibitors act? What do ACE inhibitors do? ACE inhibitors, they usually reduce the angiotensin 2, and by that it causes vasodilatation, and it also reduces the TPR, that is total peripheral resistance. It also reduces the aldosterone, and aldosterone further reduces the salt and water retention, right? So this is the action of angiotensin. So angiotensin ACE inhibitors are basically reducing the blood pressure by decreasing the peripheral vascular resistance. They do not have any action on cardiac output, and they do not have any action on, so no action on cardiac output, no action on cardiac preload. So this is the correct answer, right? So now let us go to the next question. A hypertensive patient is taking 3 antihypertensive drugs including diuretics, but the blood pressure is not controlled. So the question is, a hypertensive patient taking 3 drugs plus diuretic, which includes diuretics, but the blood pressure is not controlled. He also has hypokalemia. So which of the following drugs should be used to manage this patient? So the diagnosis here is resistant hypertension plus hypokalemia. Okay. This is suggestive of aldosterone excess, or it is secondary hypertension. Now what are the options given? So options are furosemide, nitroglycerin, spironolactone, potassium supplements. Now this case, since it suggests that there might be an aldosterone excess, the drug of choice in this case will be which one? It will be spironolactone. You will not give potassium supplements, you will not give NTG, furosemide, इनका कोई use नहीं है. You will give spironolactone. Now what is spironolactone? Spironolactone is basically an aldosterone antagonist, right? So it will reduce the excess of aldosterone. It will also retain the potassium ion, and it will then reduce the blood pressure also. So the right answer here is spironolactone, right? Next question is determine the, let us read the question completely. Determine the total body clearance for a drug in a 70 kg male patient. The drug has an elimination half-life of 3 hours with an apparent volume of distribution of 100 ml per kg. So now it is a formula based question. You just have to apply the formula. So what are they asking? The total body clearance. The formula for clearance is equal to 0.693 into volume of distribution upon half-life. So we have half-life. Half-life is 3 hours. Volume of distribution is 100 ml. So what is VD here? VD is 100 into the body weight is 70. So it is 7000 ml. So almost equal to 7 liters. Okay. So putting them into the formula, 0.693 into VD is 7 upon half-life is 3. So when you calculate this, the answer will be 1617 ml per hour. So this is the total body clearance, right? So the correct answer in this case is this. This is a very simple formula based question, and you just have to put the formula and you will get the answer. Next, a 58-year-old male with chronic kidney disease. So the first thing that we've got is CKD. Presents for routine follow-up. His blood pressure is 140 by 100. So blood pressure is 140 by 100. Now urine analysis reveals a significant proteinuria. Which of the following is the most appropriate first-line antihypertensive agent for this patient? Now here it is a patient of CKD with hypertension and with proteinuria. So the diagnosis is CKD with hypertension with proteinuria. Okay. Now which is the most appropriate first-line antihypertensive agent for this patient? Now we have studied earlier that the first choice is ACE inhibitor oblique ARBs. Is the option given here? So options are propranolol, hydrochlorothiazide, telmisartan and spironolactone. So yes, we have an ARB which is given here in the answers. So the correct answer here we have to mark is telmisartan. So this telmisartan, how it is going to be helpful? How it is an ARB, it will do the functions of ARB, plus it will also reduce the intraglomerular pressure, and it will also reduce the proteinuria, right? So telmisartan is the drug of choice in this case, right? Next question, A patient with schizophrenia developed muscular dystonia and was given treatment for that. Means the patient basically developed extrapyramidal syndrome. He presents with complaints of dry mouth, mydriasis, and urinary retention. The complaints that the patient gives now are dry mouth, mydriasis, and urinary retention. What are these complaints indicative of? They are indicative of anticholinergic toxicity, right? Or anticholinergic side effects. Now, which of the following drug is likely to be responsible for these symptoms? Now, in this question, many students will get confused and they will mark haloperidol because it is the first choice here. And you will think that, okay, they're asking for the which drug will cause muscular dystonia, but you have to be very, very alert. And in this case, they are basically asking you which drug is causing complaints of urinary retention, mydriasis, and dry mouth. So the drug responsible for that is, what are the options given? Haloperidol, quetiapine, benztropine, and clozapine. Now clozapine, quetiapine, haloperidol are all antipsychotic drugs. Benztropine is an anticholinergic drug and it is usually given for the treatment of EPS, right? Treatment of EPS may we give the anticholinergic drug benztropine, and this will cause the side effects which are seen here in this case. Okay. The next question: a patient presents in a comatose state with low BP and low respiratory rate. Okay, so patient is comatose, then BP is low and respiratory rate is low. Now opiate poisoning is suspected. What is the antidote of choice? This is a very, very direct, simple question. The options given are flumazenil, naloxone, naltrexone, atropine. So we will simply go and click on naloxone because naloxone is the competitive antagonist. It is the competitive antagonist at mu receptor. Okay, mu opioid receptor space. This is a competitive antagonist. So the answer here is naloxone. Next question. A 38-year-old male presents to the outpatient clinic with complaints of excessive stress and difficulty in maintaining a work-life balance. His blood pressure is 150 by 100. So this is first point, that his blood pressure is high. His fasting blood glucose is 110. Okay, normal hai, itna nahi hai. Then he has no significant past medical history, is not on any medication, physical examination is unremarkable. What is the most appropriate next step in the management? Now this is a new hypertension patient, not taken any medicine. So the first line of therapy again has to be ACE inhibitor or ARB. So the most appropriate next step in the management is, what are the options? Advise rest and no pharmacological treatment, start hydrochlorothiazide, start glucocorticoids, start telmisartan. So here it is basically stage 2 hypertension and there is a risk of target organ like kidney getting damaged. So we have to initiate the pharmacological therapy. Now for long acting effect and safety, the best option that we have here is telmisartan. This is the drug to be started. It's a young patient, you can see young patient hai. Start telmisartan. This is the safest drug. Next question: a patient taking chemotherapy for multiple myeloma. Okay, the patient is taking chemotherapy for multiple myeloma, presents with thrombocytopenia. Now what is the drug of choice for treating this patient? It is a case of multiple myeloma who is taking chemotherapy and chemotherapy induced thrombocytopenia. Okay, now what are the options given? Darbepoetin alpha, filgrastim, oprelvecin, and iron carboxymaltose. Now here the answer is very simple, direct question hai. Oprelvecin is the drug of choice in chemotherapy induced thrombocytopenia, right? Oprelvecin is the drug of choice in this. Next question: a 28-year-old male presents with complaints of excessive thirst and frequent urination throughout the day. Okay, so that means this is excessive thirst and frequent urinations. He mentions having to wake up multiple times. On further questioning, he reports a history of head injury 1 month ago. So this is the most important line. So head injury resulted in trauma to the pituitary, and this resulted in a central diabetes insipidus, and his symptoms are indicative of diabetes insipidus. In diabetes insipidus there is a deficiency of ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone. So there is a deficiency of antidiuretic hormone resulting in diuresis. So fasting blood glucose is normal, so he is not diabetic. Now what is the most appropriate next step in the management? Now options given are tolvaptan, insulin, desmopressin, and hydrochlorothiazide. So here, as we all know, the drug of choice in case of diabetes insipidus is desmopressin. This is basically also called as DDAVP, and this is a V2 selective ADH analog. So this is the drug of choice. It will cause what? It will increase the water reabsorption and will solve this problem. Next question. A 26-year-old male presents to the hospital with fever and arthritis. Okay, so patient has fever and arthritis. Echocardiography confirms the presence of carditis in this patient. He gives a past history of peptic ulcer disease. Which of the following is the most appropriate anti-inflammatory agent in this patient? Now, anti-inflammatory agent in this patient with a past history of peptic ulcer disease, वो options given are diclofenac, tramadol, celecoxib and ibuprofen. Now we know that of the given options, the only drug which is safe in peptic ulcer cases is celecoxib. Diclofenac, tramadol and ibuprofen will all cause inflammation and peptic ulcer increase. So celecoxib is the only drug. Why this is safe? Because it is a selective COX-2 inhibitor, and so it does not have, or it causes minimum GI damage. Okay. Next question is, a 50-year-old male presents with complaints of leg swelling, pain in the heel, started a few days after he began an antibiotic course for a lower respiratory tract infection, right? So he has swelling, pain in the heel after he took an antibiotic for a lower respiratory tract infection. Now, examination reveals signs which are suggestive of HLS tendinitis, which describes the mechanism of action of drug most likely responsible for this condition. So here, when you read the history, you understand that there was an antibiotic which was started, which resulted in a tendinitis, right? Now, tendinitis, cartilage को कौन सी antibiotic affect करती है? They are fluoroquinolones. So now coming to that, fluoroquinolones का mechanism of action क्या होता है? They inhibit the bacterial DNA gyrase. So the answer here is, let us read the options: inhibition of bacterial protein synthesis, inhibition of bacterial cell wall synthesis, inhibition of bacterial DNA gyrase, inhibition of bacterial folic acid synthesis. So the answer that we have here is inhibition of bacterial DNA gyrase. So this is the action of fluoroquinolone, and hence this is the correct answer here, because tendinitis, cartilage damage, is caused by fluoroquinolones, right? Next question. A 12-year-old boy is brought to the emergency department after accidental ingestion of tricyclic antidepressant medications. Now that means a patient has taken TCA's toxicity हो गई है यहाँ पे. The patient presents with palpitations, dry mouth, mydriasis, tachycardia. Now ये जब 4 symptoms आते हैं ना, plus constipation also, just go towards the poisoning of anticholinergic or anticholinergic toxicity. So which is the most appropriate antidote treatment in this case? Now TCS की toxicity हो गई है. The symptoms that he is presenting are more of anticholinergic toxicity. Here, as we can see, TCS, they also have anticholinergic activity. So the most appropriate antidote in this case, what are the options? Lithium, physostigmine, naloxone, flumazenil. So anticholinergic toxicity है, तो we will use physostigmine. Why we will use physostigmine? Because it is a anticholinesterase inhibitor, या acetylcholinesterase inhibitor होता है, and it will reduce or it will reverse the anticholinergic toxicity. So the drug of choice here is physostigmine in this case. Next, a 34-year-old woman with a history of allergic rhinitis, right, has been taking cetirizine. She presents with complaint of excessive daytime sleepiness. Which of the following would be the best alternative in this patient? Now cetirizine, say the patient is getting sleepiness, so we need to change the medication, and the diagnosis in this patient is allergic rhinitis. So the options are diphenhydramine, fexofenadine, promethazine and chlorpheniramine. So we need a non-sedating. The requirement here is a non-sedating second line therapy, and it should be useful in allergic rhinitis. So the best option that we have here is fexofenadine. This is the drug of choice. It is second generation होती है, non-sedating है, and this is also safe in allergic rhinitis, right? So the drug of choice that we have, the correct answer is fexofenadine. A 9-month-old infant is brought to the pediatric clinic, okay, with a history of sudden jerky movements of the lips. EEG shows a chaotic high amplitude background with multifocal spikes, which is consistent with hips arrhythmia. What is the treatment of choice in this condition? So this sudden jerky movements, EEG में multifocal spikes with hips arrhythmia, is indicative of infantile spasms, right? Now infantile spasms less than 2 years of age, the drug of choice is ACTH. So यहाँ पे if the child is having it's an infant having infantile spasms, the drug of choice is ACTH. You have to give ACTH here, and this basically acts via corticosteroid pathway and it reduces the spasms. So the drug of choice in small children is ACTH. Next question, which of the following is adverse effect associated with bleomycin? Bleomycin के साथ कौन सा adverse effect associated है? Options are bone marrow suppression, pulmonary fibrosis, cardiotoxicity and renal failure. So the option that we know, bleomycin causes lung damage. It is toxic to the lungs. So pulmonary fibrosis is the answer here. It is bleomycin causes dose dependent lung damage. Okay, so this is the answer here. Next question, what is the preferred preoperative drug for the management of hypertension in patient with pheochromocytoma? So pheochromocytoma, we know the patient preoperatively, the drug of choice. It's a very, very direct and very simple question. Phenoxybenzamin is the drug of choice in pheochromocytoma. Why? Because phenoxybenzamin is an irreversible non-selective alpha blocker, right? And it is used preoperatively to control the hypertension and also to prevent the catecholamine storm, which will happen when the gland will be handled during the surgery. So it has to be given. Phenoxybenzamin is the preferred antihypertensive. Next, what is the first line therapy for aborting the acute attack of cluster headache? Now, first line therapy for aborting the acute attack of cluster headache, the options given are 100% oxygen, sumatriptan, lithium and verapamil. Now here they are speaking about cluster headache, they are not speaking about the migraine. So यहाँ पे what mistake you will make, you will immediately mark sumatriptan, but no, they are asking about cluster headache. So first line abortive therapy in cluster headache is 100% oxygen. So this is given high flow oxygen, which is 10 to 12 liters per minute via mask, is very effective in aborting the attack quickly. How does it do that? It basically causes cerebral vasoconstriction. Headache occurs when there is cerebral vasodilatation. So this drug will cause vasoconstriction and will reduce the headache, right? Next question, a 24-year-old female with the history of severe persistent asthma is currently on inhaled corticosteroid and long-acting beta agonist. Okay, so severe persistent asthma, the patient is already on ICS plus LABA. Now, despite adherence to therapy, she continues to have seasonal exacerbations. Her FEV is within normal limits, so she has seasonal exacerbations. Lab investigations, they reveal elevated serum Ig levels. What is the most appropriate next step in the management? Now here, see, the patient is having asthma, and asthma ke saath it is also raised IgE or high IgE, right? Now, what are the options given? The patient will take oral antibiotics and SABA. You will give intravenous terbutaline, you will give subcutaneous omalizumab, you will give intravenous corticosteroids. Now patient is already on corticosteroids. SABA देने का मतलब बैठता नहीं है. Terbutaline is not effective, no same action चल रहा है. So the drug that we are going to give to reduce the serum Ig levels is omalizumab. And so omalizumab, it will basically, it is an anti-IgE monoclonal antibody, and it will block the mast cell activation, right? So this is the action of LABA. Sorry, this is the answer in this case. The last question is, which is the correct treatment of peptic ulcer associated with H. pylori? So here basically they are asking H. pylori regime जो है हमारा वो क्या है? The options given are omeprazole, clarithromycin plus amoxicillin, omeprazole, clarithromycin and amoxicillin, metronidazole, omeprazole and clarithromycin. So now the answer that we know, the triple therapy is given in H. pylori, and the drugs which are given are omeprazole, clarithromycin and amoxicillin, right? So this is the drug therapy. Omeprazole is basically a PPI, clarithromycin is an antibiotic macrolide, and amoxicillin is basically, or we can even use metronidazole if there is a penicillin allergy. So this is again an antibiotic, right? So this is the correct treatment of peptic ulcer. So with this we finished the 22 questions which were asked in pharmacology in the recent FMG exam.